All right, welcome back, everyone. I know it's been a while, but I've got some new goodies for the file server. So I got two brand new 8 terabyte Western Digital hard drives. This is going to go with the two that I already had for a total of 4. So we're going to be adding these and building a new array and then transitioning all of our data from the old array over to the new one. And then, of course, I have this Gamma 2 750 watt power supply. When I did the original build video on the file server, you may remember I kind of hacked up an existing power supply just to get things working. Well, now we have a proper power supply. So I think the first thing we're going to do is get all this stuff slotted in. We'll get the power supply set up, and then we'll go through the process of building the new RAID array and transitioning the data over. So let's get started. Actually, first let's take a quick look at the hard drive. So these are 8 terabyte W Digital Reds. These are, of course, their NAS hard drive line. And I went with 8 terabyte purely because I already had two 8 terabyte drives, so a total of 4 for a RAID 5 array totaling in 24 gigabytes with 1 drive redundancy or resiliency, I guess. These are SATA 3 6 gigabyte per second or gigabit. Is it gigabyte or gigabit? One of the two. But yeah, these are going to be good. And my current RAID array is of 4 terabyte drives in RAID 5, so it's just going to be a straight upgrade. I should have enough free slots in the file server that we can slot these right in next to the existing drives, build the array in place, and then just simply move the data over and then decommission the original array. So yeah, that's about it for the hard drives. Let's move on to the power supply and take a closer look at it. So as you can imagine, there's absolutely nothing special about this power supply. It's just a very cheap 750 watt 80 plus gold power supply by Montech. And the biggest reason I went for this power supply is it was the cheapest one I could find that had 8 SATA power connectors. So that's going to give us enough connectors to power all of the hard drives in the computer without having to resort to a bunch of the adapters that I was using on the previous power supply. And here is the unit itself, of course, completely non-modular. That's what happens when you pick the cheapest power supply you can find. But I'm absolutely perfectly okay with that because this is a file server and it's just tucked in the corner out of the way and I never go inside it. So who cares if there's a bunch of cables bundled up in there? And my cat is having a very good time with the box. So bonus. Alright, here's the file server all powered off and on the bench. For those of you who haven't seen the first video, this is a big Antec case. And I chose this specifically because the amount of hard drive bays it had in it and the nice filtered fans on it. I do have a cat, as you saw. And of course, I deal with a lot of pet hair because of that. So this is a nice filtered case, but I haven't cracked it open since the day I put it together. So we're going to open it up now and see how those filters have been doing. And yeah, it looks pretty clean in there. I gotta say, I think they did a good job. Oh, and if you haven't noticed, I'm going for the chest mount camera tonight simply because I cannot find my tripod adapter for the GoPro mount. So chest mount it is. Okay, so I guess the first thing I'm gonna do is just load my hard drives up into the bays. So we'll pull these sleds out, all 4 of them. And then we'll set this to the side and we'll get the hard drives loaded into them and then we'll slot them back into place. Nothing quite like opening up fresh hard drives. Oh, that's nice. There you go. Now, I did mention in my initial build video that I do not care for these sleds. They are very chintzy, but at this price point, you can't expect too much. And also, I just realized that it has these little bumps here to help you bend the side that you're snapping on. So I guess that would have been a little easier to put on if I had paid attention to that. But I got them all on anyway. None of them broke, so that's a bonus. I'd have already broken a peg on one of the other drive trays, so it was probably because I was putting it on the wrong way. But that being said, it is just a chintzy design, so kind of a knock against the case in that regard. But otherwise, this case has been excellent. So let's get these slotted into the case. And here we go in no particular order. And there we go. All sleds are full. I do eventually want to build a RAID array with all 8 drives, but I'm gonna have to get 4 more of these 8 TB drives for that to happen, so that'll be a future project. Okay, so I've now got the case flipped around to the back side and the back panel removed so that you can see my beautiful wiring job. Now, for those of you who are new here or didn't see the original video, this was basically built on the cheapest budget that I could, using only stuff that I had on hand basically outside of the case. So there's a little bit of hackery going on here. I had to extend some of the power supply cables, as you can see, and there's adapters, and it's just a big mess. So what I'm going to do now is get this old Logisys power supply out. We're going to get the new Gamma 2 power supply in, and then we're going to tidy up all this wiring a little bit. So let's do that now. So I thought I was in trouble here because the CPU power header appeared to only have this 8-pin connector, but if you look closely, these actually split apart. So if you tug on it, the plug just kind of unclips, and then that gives you 2 of the 4-pin ones. So we only need 1, and that'll go straight into the motherboard. Perfect. Alright, so there it is. My cabling mess is complete. Yeah, it's a mess. I don't know what to say about it. I really didn't put too much effort into cable management, simply because, like I said, it's a server, it sits in a corner. I don't open it up very much. I don't look in here very much. I don't really care what it looks like. At the end of the day, as long as it's functional, that's all that really matters. I think everything should fit. I'm a little concerned about this spot here, whether or not the panel will fit that. If it doesn't, we may have to spread some of this bundle out a little bit and make it fit. I did get my 4 hard drive SATA cables plugged in. This is of course coming off of my SATA controller card. It does 8 SATA channels, so that's cool. Everything looks good there. I did unfortunately have to use 1 SATA power adapter, so this is Molex, the SATA power, and that is simply because there's only 4 on the power supply, and we got to use all 4 currently in order to have both RAID arrays online at the same time so that I can transfer the data over. Once the data transfer is complete, these bottom 4 drives will be coming out, and then we can get rid of this nasty little SATA power converter. That being said, if I do eventually get to the point, like I said, of getting 8 TB drives in here, the Molex adapter will come back for that, but that is a far-flung future objective, so we're not going to worry about it tonight. So yeah, let's get the case button back up, and we'll head over to the computer and do some RAID stuff. Let's get to it. Alright, the file server is tucked back away in its dusty corner. No trouble getting the side panel on. Fortunately, the inner insulation has quite a bit of squish to it, so it just popped right back on. I will say that the thing has a little bit more heft to it with those 4 extra drives in there. It's actually quite noticeable, but got it back in there in the corner, and we're going to get started on the configuration, so let's go. Alright, we are on the desktop here, and we are ready to start our configuration. So I'm just going to pop into our browser, and we're going to hit the OMV server, log in, and it might take me a second. It's been a minute since I've had to do this. I think we're going to want to go to storage, and then disks, and we should see our new disks. Yep, there they are. 4 7.28 TB drives. So they've been mounted as dev/SDB through SDE, it looks like. And these are our original 4 TB drives here. They got moved down through SDF through SDI. So no issues there. I think now we're gonna want to go to software RAID. Here's our initial RAID array here. So we're gonna add one. We're gonna do RAID 5. Oh, and interesting. Only 2 of the drives seem to be showing up. We've got SDB and SDD. We can select these for the array, but yeah, the others are not showing up. So that's interesting. Let me do some digging and see if I can figure out what's going on here. All right, that didn't take long to figure out. We can see now all 4 of our drives are here. So what I had to do is actually go in here, and 2 of the drives, I think it was SDC and E, just had to click on those and then wipe them. Just a quick wipe was good enough. And now that I think about it, those 2 drives were at one point in my Windows PC, and they were set up using the Windows software RAID feature. So that's probably why they weren't showing up correctly in here. But now that we've corrected that, they seem to be showing up okay. So we're going to continue on and build our RAID 5 array using these 4 disks. So we're going to hit save there. Pending configuration changes, we're going to go ahead and tell it to apply. Yes. Okay, so those changes have applied now, and the array is being cleaned and synced. Now here's an important thing. You want to wait for this process to complete before you move on to making the file system. OpenMedia Vault will allow you to go ahead and build the file system while the RAID array is being cleaned and synced, but it will drastically extend the amount of time those 2 operations take. So what you're going to want to do is wait for this process to complete, and as you can see, it will take a while. And then once that's done, then you can go in and build your file system on top of the clean array. So we're going to wait for this to complete, and we'll come back when it's done. Alright, welcome back. It's been roughly 18 hours, and our RAID array has finished resyncing. So we're ready to move on to the next step. So I'm going to come down here to File System, and we're going to create a new file system on our array. And again, I'm just going to use ext4. We're going to select our device, which is the only option, and we'll click Save. And we're going to let this create the file system. Alright, so the file system has been created, and this part's a little confusing if you're not paying attention to what's going on. So after the file system creation process finishes and you hop back to the file systems tab, you're not going to see anything, and that's because you actually have to mount the newly created file system. So you're going to hit this little play button here, and then you're going to find your file system and then hit save, and that's going to give you the mounted file system here. So we're going to apply these changes. Yes. And now we can see that our file system has been created and is online. So the next step I need to do is actually remote into the server via SSH, and we're going to copy the contents of this array over to this array. So let's do that now. Okay, I kind of got lost there for a second, but we are now remoted into the server here via SSH in the terminal. And we have both of our arrays mounted already. We did that in the previous step. So in the SRV folder, or the server folder, we can see our 2 mounts. So devdisk by ID is my original array. Devdisk by UUID is the new array, or at least the mount points for the 2 arrays. And now what we need to do is copy the data from the first array over to the second array. And you could do this with a simple copy command, but that's not going to tell us progress or speed, and this is a big copy, so we kind of want to keep up with that sort of thing. So instead we're going to use rsync to do this. So rsync should be installed in OMV by default, so no need to install anything. We're going to use the -AH switch. This is going to keep all the permissions that are already there and make it human readable. And then we're going to use the --progress switch, and of course this is going to show us our progress like we want, and then our source is going to be /srv/dev disk by id, yada yada yada, and our destination will be srv dev disk by UUID. OMV generates these names when it mounts the disks, so I'm not sure how the first time it created a dev by ID and the second time it created dev by UUID. Not sure what's going on there, but anyway, we're not going to worry too much about that, and we're going to start our copy. And it immediately errored out. Let's see. Yada yada, skipping any content. We need to use sudo. And our copy is on the way. So perfect. We're going to let that finish copying, and then once it's done, we'll come back. Alright, the file copy has completed. It took quite some time, and it did actually get interrupted once, but I was able to start it back, and with some few extra switches added to the rsync command, I was able to basically get it to ignore files that were already existing in the target directory. So basically the copy picked up right where it was. That being said, as a sanity check, I found this rsync command here, this one, and basically what this one does is some of those switches basically tell it to do a dry run and not actually execute the copy, and the -- delete, I believe, tells it to output any files that would be deleted from the source if they're different from the target, and then we're running that through grep and just looking for the output line deleting, so we're not getting a bunch of extraneous output. So at the end of the day, what this command should do is output any files that exist on the source but not the target. So if I run this, you can see no output. So in theory, that means that all the files that exist on the source are present on the target, and that's what we want. There may be some extra files on the target from something else, and that may be where that extra 0.01 of a terabyte comes from. Not sure. Not going to be too worried about it. So before I started all the file copy stuff, I did actually shut down my Jellyfin server and my image server. For those of you who don't know, this file server is running also those two services in containers via Docker. And I shut those down because I didn't want those writing anything to the source RAID array before the copy completed or during the copy, or after either, because I want those two to stay in sync. So this is going to be a little tricky, but now the goal is to just point those services to the new RAID array, and hopefully, I don't know this for sure, but hopefully they're just going to see the files and just be happy with it. There is some potential, especially for image, that it might not like what it sees, and it might act as if these are an entirely new set of files, and that might cause some headaches. Hopefully not, but we're going to find out. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do here is actually switch all of my shares over to the corresponding directory in the new RAID array. So here's my, I think it's 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5, six shares. So we're just going to go through one by one and edit these, and instead of pointing at dev md0, we're going to point at dev md1, and the same relative path should be present. And then we're just going to do that for each of these shares. And then we will apply that. Okay, that looks good. So in theory, that means the share should be switched over to the new RAID array. I don't know if I need to go into services and edit the actual SMB shares or not. Let's just look and see what these say. Nope, so these updated automatically when we updated the source shares, so that should be okay. So now in theory, if I browse to these shares, it should be basically the new ones. Well, we'll worry about that in a moment, but I should just be able to access the shares like this. Oh, trying to act like it's a Windows box. okay. So we can see all the shares. So now can we access them? Yes, we can. So that's good. Now I do have some concerns that, yeah, see this, the permissions could not be determined. I think even though I set the switch to reserve the permissions on the rsync copy, I think the permissions got a little screwed up, especially when I had to restart the copy halfway through. So I may have to go back and like change the ownership and the group for all of the files so that they can be the permissions can be read properly. I think that's what's going on. But we'll worry about that in a moment, because as long as I can create new files, and I can, and as long as I can read the existing files, so we'll open Airplane here. Yep, and that works. We should be okay. I'm not going to worry about that too much at the moment. As long as we can read and write to the directories, I'm happy. I may need to go in and reboot my computer just to get my mounts to work. Not sure exactly why they're not. Well, let's just do this. Let's just go through and we have to be super user. Let me go in and just manually unmount all these and then rerun mount-A and see what happens. Okay, so yeah, I went through and unmounted all of the mounted file systems and then remounted everything by running sudo mount-A, and now I appear to be able to access the files normally, so that's good. So I think we're okay there as far as like file shares go. I believe the next thing we really need to do is get the image side of things set up. So for that, I think I just need to edit the config to point to the correct upload location. And then we're going to take a look at Jellyfin. But I think Jellyfin's just going to be okay, because from what I remember, you actually point Jellyfin at the network share, not the direct path on the file system. So I think as long as the file share is the same, and it should be, it's just going to pick up right where it left off and be happy. But we'll find out. Like I said, I don't know. Never done this before, so it's new territory for me. But let's look at image first and see what we can figure out with that. Alright, so I am in the image app directory, and I should be able to edit the .env file. Yep, and there's our config right here. So I just need to change this to the name of the new drive, and that should be okay. So let me grab that now. There we go. Okay, so that should be the correct path. Basically, we just swap the one device for the other, or one device mount point for the other. And now I can write this. Yep, save modified buffer .env. Yep. And now I believe we should just be able to bring image back up, and it should work. Okay, so it was just docker compose up-d. I always forget that command. Anyway, everything started back up, so I'm now going to pop into image and see if it's working. Obviously, I can't show you that because my photos are in there, but I'm going to break a tab off here and look at it real quick. Okay, and it appears to be completely happy with it. Obviously, I'm going to have to blur the screen for the video, but I wanted to point out that the updated storage here is showing up, so I can see the full size of the new drive, and it's not complaining about anything. All of my photos seem to be here, so I think that just worked, which is great. I'm glad it didn't cause any issues. That was my biggest concern about this whole thing, was whether or not image was going to like basically being pointed at an entirely different copy of its original library. But yeah, seems like it's fine. It doesn't seem to care. So good, excellent. We're gonna check on Jellyfin next and make sure it's happy, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be just fine. But let's look at that now. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is bring Jellyfin back online. So I think I should just be able to do docker start Jellyfin. Okay, and then docker ps. And the formatting's all broken, but yeah, we can see it starting here. So it should be coming up. So let's open a new tab here, and we will try to hit it. It's probably not completely up yet. Oh, nope, it's already up. And yeah, it seems to be perfectly happy. Let's just try playing a movie. We'll play Airplane again since we played it earlier from the file. And bingo, it's happy. So that appears like everything is working. just to be doubly, triply sure, I'm going to unmount the old file share from IOTA here, and we'll make sure everything's still happy. But as far as I know, it should only be possible to access. Well, I don't know. It's possible that Image is still accessing the old share or the old library somehow, because it's going through the file system, not the shared folders. But Airplane absolutely shouldn't be able to see the old files anymore, so it should be good to go absolutely. But let's just go in here under storage and file systems, and we are going to unmount the old one. So unmount. It's not in use. Okay, it shouldn't be in use by any of them, so we're going to say yes. We're going to let it unmount. Okay, we're going to apply the configuration. Okay, so that appears to have applied. So now there's no way possible that Image or Jellyfin can be accessed in the old RAID array. So I think we should pop back into Image and Jellyfin and just double check that everything looks happy. And I may even pull the file shares back up in the file browser here in Nemo just to be doubly sure. But yeah, we should be good. Let me pop into Image real quick. Okay, I'm just gonna scroll down and try opening a picture. Yep, seems happy. That's working. So yeah, I think that's a success. I think we're good. Next steps are going to be removing the old drives from the server, and then future plans are to take those 4 4TB drives and put them into my desktop PC, the one I'm on right now. And the idea there is I'm going to have that set up in a RAID 5 array just like it was in the file server. And I'm going to use it as basically a big pool of local storage, mostly for my Steam library. We're going to look forward to that, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Looks like it's been a success. And until next time, guys, take it easy.